Few sitcoms in television history carried as much laughter and as much heartbreak under the same roof as Diff'rent Strokes. For 8 seasons, it made America fall in love with a Harlem family living in a Park Avenue penthouse. But the stories that unfolded off-screen turned out to be far more dramatic than anything the writers ever put on the page. Let's get into it. Number 1. We have Gary Coleman as Arnold Jackson. The most famous catchphrase of the entire 1970s belonged to a kid who was just 10 years old when Diff'rent Strokes first aired. And Gary Coleman delivered, "What you talking about, Willis?" across all 181 episodes with a comic timing that made him one of the most recognizable child stars America has ever produced. His small stature was the result of a congenital kidney disease that shaped every chapter of his life, on screen and off. Now gone from us since 2010, his personal life was marked by a turbulence that contrasted painfully with the warmth of the character that made him famous. He successfully sued his own parents and business advisors for misappropriating his $3.8 million trust fund, a legal battle against the very people who should have protected him. His marriage to Shannon Price in 2007 lasted barely a year before divorce, yet the two continued living together in a situation that became the subject of bitter legal disputes over his medical decisions and estate after his death. Gary Coleman passed away on May 28, 2010, at just 42 years old from a brain hemorrhage. Number 2, we have Charlotte Rae as Edna Garrett. Already 52 years old when Diff'rent Strokes began, a Charlotte Rae brought a warmth and maternal authority to housekeeper Edna Garrett that made her the emotional backbone of the entire Drummond household across 37 episodes, before she left to spin the character off into her own massively successful show, The Facts of Life. Her personal life contained a revelation she kept private for decades before finally sharing it in her 2015 memoir. She had been married to composer John Strauss from 1951 to 1976, and the marriage ended after he came out as gay. A deeply complex chapter she navigated with a grace and compassion that defined how she spoke about it publicly, noting they remained close friends long after the marriage ended. Charlotte Rae passed away on August 5, 2018, at the remarkable age of 92, beloved by everyone who ever worked alongside her and remembered as one of the most genuinely generous mentors the industry ever produced. Number 3, we have Conrad Bain as Philip Drummond. The anchor of the entire series, Philip Drummond was the kind of television father who made the whole show's premise work, warm, principled, and genuinely invested in the children in his care. And Conrad Bain was 55 years old when he took on that role across all 181 episodes with a classical actor's quiet authority. His personal life was built on the same steady foundation his most famous character embodied. He married artist Monica Sloan in 1945, 4 decades before Diff'rent Strokes ever aired. And the two remained completely devoted to each other for 63 years until her death in 2008. 3 children, a lifetime partnership, and a professional reputation built entirely on integrity and craft. Conrad Bain passed away on January 14, 2013, at the age of 89. The kind of man the industry remembers not just for what he did on screen but for the stability he provided to a set that needed it desperately in its later years. Number 4, we have Janet Jackson as Charlene Dupre. Before the world-conquering music career, before the Super Bowl, before any of it, Janet Jackson was just 14 years old when she played Arnold's girlfriend Charlene across 10 episodes between 1980 and 1984, still very much finding her footing as a performer while the rest of her family's fame was already in full orbit around her. Now 59 years old in 2026, the life she built after leaving this show behind became one of the most extraordinary in the entire history of American entertainment. In her personal life, her marriage to James DeBarge in 1984, during the show's final years, was annulled within a year, followed by a secret marriage to Renee Elizondo Jr. that lasted nearly a decade before becoming public. Her marriage to Qatari billionaire Wissam Al Mana in 2012 produced 1 son before they separated in 2017. The 2004 Super Bowl moment with Justin Timberlake generated one of the most intense media storms in television history, a controversy that affected her career far more severely than his, a disparity that has never been fully reckoned with publicly. Number 5, we have Todd Bridges as Willis Jackson. The older Jackson brother across all 181 episodes, Willis was the street-smart, protective sibling whose relationship with Arnold gave the show its most consistent emotional core. And Todd Bridges was just 13 years old when he first stepped into that role, growing up entirely in front of America's television screens. Now 60 years old, in 2026, his journey off-screen became one of the rawest and most honest stories of any child star his generation produced. He fell into crack cocaine addiction in his 20s, and in 1989 found himself on trial for the attempted murder of a drug dealer, a charge he was ultimately acquitted of, but which announced just how far the years had taken him from the Park Avenue penthouse. He fought his way back with a determination that deserved every ounce of recognition it received, in eventually achieving sobriety and writing a book called Killing Willis that documented his fall and recovery with unflinching honesty. In his personal life, he married Dory Smith in 1998 before that marriage ended in 2012. And in 2022, he married Betta Jo B. Hershey, a new chapter built on the solid ground he spent years fighting to find. Number 6, we have Dixie Carter as Maggie McKinney. When Dixie Carter joined Diff'rent Strokes for its 7th season in 1984, she was 45 years old and already a performer of serious theatrical pedigree. And she brought a sharp, sophisticated energy to Maggie McKinney across 33 episodes that made the character one of the show's most compelling additions in its later years. The role that would eventually define her legacy was still just around the corner. Julia Sugarbaker on Designing Women turned her into one of American television's most iconic figures, a character whose passionate, eloquent monologues became the kind of television moments people quote for decades. In her personal life, her marriage to actor Hal Holbrook in 1984, the same year she joined this cast, became one of Hollywood's most genuinely devoted long-term partnerships, lasting until her death. Dixie Carter passed away on April 10, 2010, at the age of 70, mourned deeply by an industry that knew exactly what it had lost. Number 7, we have Shavar Ross as Dudley Ramsey. Arnold's best friend Dudley across 43 episodes, Shavar Ross was just 9 years old when he joined the show in 1980, and his most memorable contribution to Diff'rent Strokes history came through one of the most talked-about episodes the series ever produced, a special episode addressing child safety and predatory adults that tackled subject matter American sitcoms had never approached so directly before. Now, 55 years old in 2026, his path after acting took a direction almost nobody connected to this show anticipated. He became a non-denominational minister and built his own retail and film production company, a life rooted in faith and entrepreneurship that sits quietly apart from the Hollywood world that shaped his earliest years. In his personal life, he married Jacqueline Ross in 1992, and the two have remained together ever since, raising 2 children in a life built on exactly the kind of stability the show always hoped to represent. Number 8, we have Mary Jo Catlett as Pearl Gallagher. Joining the show for its 5th season in 1982 at 44 years old, Mary Jo Catlett brought an irresistible comic energy to housekeeper Pearl Gallagher across 83 episodes that made her one of the most consistently entertaining, recurring presences the later seasons produced. Now 87 years old in 2026, her career has shown a longevity that puts almost everyone else connected to this show to shame. She has been the voice of Mrs. Puff on SpongeBob SquarePants continuously since 1999, a role that has introduced her to multiple entirely new generations of fans who have no idea she was ever anyone's housekeeper in a Park Avenue penthouse. Throughout a career spanning Broadway, television, and animation across 6 decades, she has never married and has kept her personal life entirely and consistently away from public scrutiny, letting a body of work that keeps growing speak entirely for itself. Number 9, we have Danny Cooksey as Sam McKinney. At just 9 years old when he joined the show for its 7th season in 1984, Danny Cooksey brought a scrappy, red-headed energy to Sam McKinney across 48 episodes that gave the show's final stretch a genuine shot of fresh vitality at exactly the right moment. Now 50 years old in 2026, the career he built after Diff'rent Strokes moved in directions that surprised almost everyone who remembered him as Conrad Bain's young sidekick. He became a sought-after voice actor, most notably in Tiny Toon Adventures, while simultaneously fronting a heavy metal band called Bad for Good, a combination of pursuits that placed him in a category entirely his own among former child sitcom stars. In his personal life, he was married to Amber Lee from 1998 to 2019, and the two have 2 children together, a chapter of his life he has navigated with the same quiet dignity he has brought to everything since leaving that Park Avenue set behind. Number 10. We have Ann Mobley as Maggie McKinney Drummond. When the show needed someone to step into the role of Drummond's love interest for its 8th and final season, Ann Mobley arrived at 48 years old, carrying credentials that went far beyond television. She had been Miss America in 1959, built a film career alongside Elvis Presley in the 1960s, and established herself as one of Hollywood's most genuinely respected humanitarian figures through her decades of work with the March of Dimes. Across 19 episodes, she brought a warmth and natural elegance to Maggie that gave the show's final stretch a quiet grace it badly needed. In her personal life, she had been married to actor Gary Collins since 1967, a partnership that lasted 45 years through everything the industry could throw at it, right up until his death in 2012 left her widowed just 2 years before her own passing. Ann Mobley passed away on December 9, 2014, at the age of 77 from breast cancer. A woman whose kindness and public service left a mark on the world that her television work only partially captured. Number 11. We have Jason Hervey as Charlie. Playing the recurring bully Charlie across 9 episodes in the show's final season, Jason Hervey was just 13 years old during his Diff'rent Strokes appearances, already developing the instincts of a performer who understood exactly how to make an audience react. Now, 54 years old in 2026, most television fans know him from the role that came immediately after, Wayne Arnold, the insufferable older brother on The Wonder Years, a performance so perfectly calibrated in its casual cruelty that it became one of the defining sibling dynamics of late 1980s television. What audiences never expected was the career pivot that followed. He stepped away from acting and built a genuinely successful second life as a television producer, carving out a significant niche in the worlds of professional wrestling and reality television. In his personal life, he was previously married to Kelly Patricia Williams before marrying Angel Hervey in 1998, with whom he has 2 children and a family life kept carefully away from the cameras he now controls rather than performs for. Number 12, we have Nedra Volz as Adelaide Brubaker. Already 72 years old when she joined Diff'rent Strokes in 1980, making her one of the oldest working performers on American primetime television at that time, Nedra Volz made Adelaide Brubaker one of the show's most delightfully unpredictable recurring presences across 22 episodes. The feisty grandmother role was her speciality across multiple hit sitcoms simultaneously during this period, a lane she occupied with such complete ownership that producers across the industry kept calling her back. Her personal life moved through 2 marriages, first to songwriter Lester Rhodes, and then to Orrin Voles in 1944, a partnership that held for over 4 decades until his death in 1987. Nedra Volz passed away on January 20, 2003, at the extraordinary age of 94, a woman who was still performing well into her 70s and who outlasted almost everyone she ever worked alongside by a remarkable distance. Number 13, we have Dody Goodman as Aunt Sophia. A Broadway legend long before television founder, Dody Goodman was already 66 years old when she brought Aunt Sophia's wonderfully scatterbrained energy to Diff'rent Strokes across 8 episodes between 1981 and 1984. The kind of performer whose decades of stage experience turned even the smallest recurring role into something audiences genuinely looked forward to. She had built her reputation as a frequent and beloved guest on The Tonight Show, where her naturally eccentric, slightly unpredictable presence had made her a fixture of American late-night television for years before sitcom producers started calling. She never married, describing herself throughout her life as someone completely devoted to her career and her craft, an independence she wore with complete pride and zero apology. Dody Goodman passed away on June 22, 2008, at the remarkable age of 93. One of the last genuine links to Broadway's golden era that American television was lucky enough to borrow for a while. Number 14, we have Stephen Mond as Robbie Jason, Arnold's loyal best friend across 22 episodes between 1980 and 1985. Robbie Jason was the kind of recurring character that great ensemble sitcoms quietly depend on. Always present, always grounding the central relationships, always making the world of the show feel populated and real. Stephen Mond was just 9 years old when he first appeared on that Park Avenue set, now 55 years old in 2026, and his exit from Hollywood was as complete and deliberate as any former child actor has ever managed. He walked away from the entertainment industry entirely and built a career in education and library sciences, a transition so total that public records of his personal life are essentially non-existent, which for someone who grew up on one of NBC's most watched sitcoms represents a genuinely remarkable achievement of privacy and self-determination. Number 15, we have Nikki Swasey-Seaton as Lisa Hayes. Joining the show at just 9 years old in 1982, Nikki Swasey-Seaton played Arnold's recurring friend Lisa Hayes across 14 episodes stretching through the show's final 4 seasons, a consistent presence in the background of some of Diff'rent Strokes' most memorable later episodes. Now 54 years old in 2026, and going by her married name Nikki Swasey-Seaton, she followed a path that several of her younger castmates chose, moving away from performing and transitioning into the production and casting side of the industry, building a professional life behind the camera that the audience side of television rarely gets to see. She has maintained an almost complete wall of privacy around her personal life throughout all of it, sharing nothing publicly beyond her name, a discretion that speaks to someone who decided very deliberately what parts of herself the world was entitled to know. Number 16, we have Dana Plato as Kimberly Drummond. The older Drummond daughter across 144 episodes from the very first season, Kimberly was the character who grew up most visibly on screen, and Dana Plato was just 14 years old when the cameras first found her, navigating adolescence in front of millions of viewers in a way that left almost no room for the normal mistakes that growing up requires. The story of what followed is one of the most heartbreaking in the entire history of child television stardom. In her personal life, she married guitarist Lanny Lambert in 1984, during the show's final years, and the two had one son, Tyler, before divorcing in 1990. By then, the addiction battles that would define her public narrative were already well underway. Years of drug and alcohol dependency that the industry had neither the structures nor the compassion to address in any meaningful way. In 1991, she was arrested for the armed robbery of a video store, and later for forging prescriptions, headlines that buried whatever professional opportunities might have remained. She was engaged to Robert Menchaca at the time of her death. Dana Plato passed away on May 8, 1999, at just 34 years old, from a drug overdose ruled a suicide. And then, in a grief that words struggle to contain, her son Tyler took his own life on the anniversary of her death in 2010, leaving behind a family story of compounding tragedy that the show's producers, the industry, and the audience that loved her could never have imagined watching that bright-eyed teenager walk into a Park Avenue penthouse for the first time. Number 17, we have Rosalind Chao as Miss Chung. Playing the recurring school teacher Miss Chung across 8 episodes between 1981 and 1983, Rosalind Chao was 24 years old during her first Diff'rent Strokes appearance, a young actress in the very early stages of building what would eventually become one of the most quietly distinguished careers in American genre television. Now, 68 years old in 2026, Star Trek fans know her primarily as Keiko O'Brien, a role she inhabited across both The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, with a warmth and specificity that made Keiko one of the franchise's most genuinely human recurring characters. In her personal life, she married actor Simon Templeman in 1989, and the two have raised 2 children together, a partnership that has now lasted over 3.5 decades, as steady and enduring as the career she built alongside it.